A deformed bell ringer must assert his independence from a vicious government official in order to help his friend, a gypsy dancer.
Welcome to the Walt Vault with
Michelle,
Andre,
Luis,
and me, Emily. We're a family-friendly podcast where we pick a new Disney movie each week. We watch it, share our thoughts, and then relate it to pop culture, fandoms, and anything else that pops into our heads. Enjoy!
hello and welcome to the Walt Vault, episode 54.
we're in our 50s.
we are
yeah.
we are nearing our mid 50s. Thank you guys.
We can
for
retire
being here.
next episode, right? 55.
We can retire. Yeah, I guess so.
Hey.
Hey, we'll hang out on our podcast porch and
Podcast porch.
yell at the kids. We're
Get
on
a
our
dog.
lawn.
With some podcast tea.
Yeah,
Iced tea.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Some lemons in it.
You kids, get out of here. This week, we are talking about the 1996 Disney animated film, The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I feel like this is a good way to kick off year two.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
a good classic 90s Disney movie.
I feel like this movie is, underrated. I don't see too much, merch or people being excited about these characters necessarily, but this movie, first impression, top notch. Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Jolly good.
There was a
Is it
hand
jolly
motion with it,
good or
too,
is
which
it
was really good.
jolly serious?
I mean, it's jolly serious, but that's jolly good.
Yes.
You know?
This, my first impression is that this is not a movie for children.
Nah.
But I watched this as a kid because
Right.
I remember my older sister being like Esmeralda for Halloween one year, and it was popular. There was a show at Disneyland and stuff like that when it came out. I liked it. I just didn't remember it being so stinking serious. I just remembered the gargoyles, and first impression upon this watching is it's an adult movie. High schoolers could watch it as a history lesson,
I mean, yeah.
to an extent.
Yeah, exactly.
But is it really good? Yes, it is.
Yeah, my first impression is dang.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
I think I said this on the end of last episode, but I remember not being huge on this movie as a kid, and I think it's just because there was so much going on that was above my head.
Yeah.
And then I remember rewatching it either end of high school or early college and being like, whoa,
What just happened?
Oh, my.
okay,
Yeah.
this is a real theme. Okay. But it's really interesting that Disney chose to take all of these very serious
Very serious
issues
very
and put them all into one movie.
very dark,
And realistic.
realistic. Yeah, the only really Disney kid themes are the gargoyles. And
Yeah, if you took the
then,
gargoyles out, this would be a
Yeah.
very, very,
I mean,
very
I get the
dark
theme
movie.
is don't judge a book by its cover type of thing.
No, but even well, that's the kid.
that's
Right.
the kid theme.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The kid theme is, but you took a long way to get around there with some really dark undertones.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah, for once, Disney, if we think about these older fairy tales or older stories or historical things that have happened, they're all pretty serious. Some of those fairy tales are not all nice and dandy. They're not. And Disney usually turns them around. And they didn't really turn this one around. I mean, they did, but they definitely kept it dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
This movie, it came out in 96, so it's kind of squished right between Pocahontas and Hercules, and I see a lot of the DNA of both of those movies in this one,
Yeah, for sure.
where it has that historical kind of context with some silliness added on top of it. But then
It's got the moral implications of Pocahontas,
Yeah.
but the fun pieces from Hercules with the
Exactly.
gargoyles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. If there was no gargoyles, it would just be, that'd be so sad. It would just be him in his tower talking to himself.
Which
is
kind of
exactly
already
What it
that's
is,
what it is.
but without
Yeah.
his a visual of his imagination. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
That's
for
freaking
sure.
sad.
Mhm.
Well,
Because the
that's-
kids don't know. The kids think those gargoyles are real.
Okay, so it's funny that you bring that up because Luis and I were watching this movie this morning, and I was like, I don't think the gargoyles are real. Like, I guess
No,
because
they're
like
not.
as a kid, you don't question
Right.
if they're real or not.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What do you mean? Of course they're real." And I was like, "No,
No.
I'm pretty sure they're
They're
statues."
like a figment
Yeah.
of his imagination.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I was reading into it, and apparently in the book version, he was like schizophrenic and or was like had multiple personalities. So the gargoyles were like the manifestations of his different personalities, I guess. You know, one was very stoic, one was like fun loving, one was just didn't care.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh well, okay,
They're all
poor
here.
little Quasi.
Well, like Frollo even says, like, you know, like he can only see them, nobody else sees
Yeah.
them, so that kind of gives it away too. But then Frollo's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "My friends." And he's like, "Yeah, and your friends are stoned." So like it tells you right there that they're not real. You know what I mean? But
But
you
really
don't
sad.
have any
But
friends.
you know what?
I am your
Louis
friend.
really wanted to just say, but they just didn't like Frollo, so they just came to life when Frollo wasn't there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They liked
that's true
Esmeralda,
too.
and they wouldn't talk to her either. So you know,
That's true. That's true.
Alas.
Alas.
of course they liked Esmeralda. He liked Esmeralda.
Mm.
You
Everybody
know what?
liked
I could write a
Esmeralda.
whole paper on the gargoyles,
I like
but I guess we should
Esmeralda.
start from the beginning.
Oh yes. Okay.
They were there in the beginning, were they not? We were
No,
looking down
not-
on Notre Dame.
Sure, they were up there.
Yeah, I mean before that. I mean our intro scene, our
Oh, jeez.
setting up the backstory of the story.
A chase.
The backstory story. I like it.
So we've got a
Andre made a point though. So what's the clopin?
Clopin.
Clopin.
Clopin. Sorry, this is French. I forget.
It's fine. We can call him
Clopin. Clopin.
Yeah, we're back in France.
Reminds Andre of
Beauty and the Beast.
no,
Phantom
of the
Aladdin.
Opera.
Aladdin. Because in the beginning he's telling like the frame story
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
like, hey, let me tell you a tale. Also, I'm singing a song, and let's flash back to
A time
a
lost.
time
The
where
bells of Notre
Frollo
Dame.
is technically 20 years younger, but looks exactly the same age.
He's a
as,
gypsy, bro. Let him be him.
No, Frollo's not gypsy.
He's just old. He's like Morgan Freeman. Always been old.
Yeah.
Always gonna
Oh yeah,
be
he's
He'll
old.
stay
I
old
mean, I guess
forever.
once you're old, it is old. I don't know what to tell you.
So Frollo's in France. He's chasing down gypsies. I do want to address that gypsy is an offensive term to the people that it refers to, the Romanis. It's like a super oppressive term, and they say it like a lot in this movie. So we'll probably say it a couple of times over the course of the podcast, just because it's used so heavily in.
Well, and that's the
in the
only way
movie.
they're referred to.
Yeah, exactly.
In this movie.
But yeah, as of
Yeah,
2018, it's not
I
the
think-
greatest term to use to describe.
For the historical part, yes, there are. I remember watching some show on TLC that was like the gypsy lifestyle. Like they called themselves like travelers, or they would like travel.
Well, they're like
and things like
nomadic.
that.
Right.
Or
Yes, yes.
truans. Truands. Truans.
Truans.
I don't know. I was reading about the book. And
I
that's
think
what
the reason
called
they
them in the
might
book.
have used that term more in this movie is because they considered it like them almost like witchcraft. Like they were
Right,
hiding,
yeah.
and you know, Esmeralda always does a little smoke thing, and she disappears and whatnot.
She pulls a Batman.
Yeah, she pulls a Batman. There you go. So that might be why
That's why
they use
Andre
it a
likes
little
this
bit
movie.
more.
Yeah, I do want
So-
that ability.
But yeah, Frollo finds basically what they're doing is they're coming into the country, right?
Yeah, they're like they're traveling through Europe, I guess,
or through France.
and they're finding some refugee spaces, and
yes,
and
not in
Paris-
Frollo's town.
Paris is a big one. Yeah, Frollo is not having it. He's like, build that wall, get these people out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hunt them down
Wow. Sounds
one by
familiar.
one. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Interesting. Immigrants are bad.
Recurring theme, I guess.
Yeah. So
But yeah, so
God.
he sees them, and then it's really weird because he thinks like she's stolen something, like she's holding something, and he's like, she's stolen that, and she makes a run for it, and he's like, get her. But he just wants to know what she's holding. He doesn't like know it's a baby. He thinks that she's just stolen something.
like
but
a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I don't know, and he just like wants
Aladdin.
wants to get her, but
Les Mis.
his
All
horse,
French.
his horse is so big That like
yeah.
every scene where
He got a
he's
big boy
chasing
horse.
someone on their horse, I'm like, oh my god, that horse is terrifying. So it just makes it like even scarier that he's like literally chasing her through the city. Like, calm down, Frollo.
Yeah,
That's
he's
that's
got, like,
one
a-
person that you're trying to chase down, but
well,
he's on a
got
mission.
He's got a fixated personality. Like he
Yes.
sees something, he
He is
cannot let it go.
obsessive.
Oh, for sure.
But you want to know something about that horse, which is really funny? According to the audio commentary, Frollo's horse's name is Snowball.
Snowball.
That big old horse is
That
called
big
Snowball.
old black, scary, crazy horse. His name is Snowball.
That's hilarious.
That's cute.
Isn't that fantastic? Doesn't that just bring down the scary a little?
Just a little bit. It did.
Slightly.
Nah, he still looks freaking
But yeah,
menacing.
and you know,
You're
watching,
welcome.
watching this movie, I remember that people died in this movie, but you know, I was thinking it was gonna be a little bit farther in. Nah, he just slayed that gypsy right there.
We're not even 3
Right.
minutes into
Yeah.
the song.
Not even, yeah, we're barely in the song.
He like
And it was weird how they did it because he basically just like threw her down. But if I'm thinking of like the force from like his ride, okay, yeah, like she
and
probably she
was
hit her head on
hitting
the steps.
stairs.
So.
Yeah. The
The stone steps.
stone steps
Like,
of Notre Dame.
yeah.
Mhm.
D-
Yeah.
I-
So-
yeah.
Probably-
And then they're icy. You know,
I
Right,
there's
really
all
yeah.
kinds of
like.
stuff
I
going
really
on.
like what happens after the scene. So is it the priest like of this
The
church?
archdeacon.
The
yeah.
archdeacon. Thank you. I'm like, I know there's a specific word because it's a Catholic church, correct?
See,
Okay, so the archdeacon comes out and he sees him like trying to throw this child into the well because he thinks he's a demon from hell because of how he looks.
He looks at the baby and goes, "Ew, gross! I'm gonna kill it." And then just
He's like, demon. I'm like, oh, you mean yourself? Like, calm down, sir.
right.
Yeah, so he's going to throw it in the well. And then I really like that the archdeacon is like, you can do that, but guess what? Your judgment day is coming, and all of these eyes saw you. And they like zoom in on all of the statues' eyes. And it's so creepy, but it's so good because it like puts a lot of fear in your heart at that moment. And then you can tell Frollo's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
like,
He's getting the
for
holy
once,
side eye.
Frollo was shaking in his boots a little bit. And I was
Holy
like, get it,
side-eye.
archdeacon. You made him shake in his boots.
well, it's funny too because they overemphasize the eyes so much in the animation.
The eyes
So it's like
of Notre Dame.
so scary.
And they
So
say
Frollo's like,
eyes
"Oh,
like a bunch in the
no."
song too. It's like eyes, eyes. Oh, thanks, Alan.
It's
Lincoln.
good. So the
I know
arch-
Alan, man.
Yeah,
Woo.
Alan's back in full effect.
we love when Alan's back.
Guess who's back?
Yeah, so I like that scene, but it like puts a lot of fear into you. Like I can only imagine as a kid actually watching this and being like, "Mommy, what's that?"
Well,
like it's kind of
it sets the tone. Like
Yeah.
it really does show you like this is where we're going with this movie, so you better be strapped in.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like there's a lot going on in this movie. There's like the religious piece with Frollo, I guess, and then there's just so many subplots and things. But I think that's why it's so good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because it makes it complex for different people, for different age groups,
Mhm.
different like religions or
Yes.
beliefs,
Yeah.
and then even like ethnicities too,
Sure.
because you're going
Mhm.
back and forth between like prejudice
Yes.
and
And it's even just like a class system too.
oh
There's
yeah,
Mhm.
for
so,
sure.
So basically, the archdeacon he asks like, "What can I do, like to repent or whatever?" And he says, "You can raise him as your own son." So I guess he does that, but he keeps him in a
He's like,
tower locked
"Stay
up
here,
and gives
away
him
from
a
me."
job, and you know.
This movie is straight
He,
up Tangled.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
I'm just-
yeah, there we
He's
go.
like, you might be useful for me in the future.
Yep. Frollo's like,
Keep
He's
me
like,
young.
"Fine, I'll raise you." Yeah, the thing
I
is,
see an opportunity. I'll put you in a tower.
he's so Frollo.
I'll bring
is,
you food.
I have a lot to say about Frollo, but even in that moment, he's so complex because he wants to repent, but he also just is like repenting in his own evil little way.
Right.
Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
justifying all the things he does, but his head is so twisted. He's a great villain, like by far.
Yeah, he
one
is a
of
very
the
good villain.
darkest villains. Like I know
Agreed.
we've said lots of things about villains, but I kind of had forgot about Frollo just because he's not like a, I guess, quote unquote classic Disney villain that you can meet in the park. But I don't want to meet him in a park. He's freaky.
Well, you don't.
Right, get him
and I
away
think that's
from me.
why, because he's realistic.
I might throw
Yeah.
tomato
Yes,
at him.
Well,
exactly.
you could meet him in real life.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
like, you
This is
can't-
a dude that exists.
You can't meet Scar in real
Right,
life
yeah.
or Ursula.
Ursula's
like,
not around.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
they
wanna
scary,
Meet, I don't
but,
want to
like-
meet Frollo. If I saw him, I'd be like, "Get out of here, sir! What's wrong with you?
they
Thought
Burn
you
down
died in
your
that
house.
hellfire. Get out!"
Claude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Ay,
So
caramba.
Frollo, he starts raising Quasimodo as
In a tower.
in a tower and visits him every once in a while, brings him some grapes.
Now grapes were a treat. He usually just brings him like soup, I think, and bread. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
So Quasimodo, he grows up in the tower. He's the bell ringer. He rings them bells, and he does a great job. He's timely. He's
Quasimodo
strong.
is so strong.
He is
Yeah.
You know
very
how
strong.
he is to having to ring those bells all the time. I'm sure I would like move the rope like a centimeter. Like, oh, I did it, ding! Like
Ding. I
that's
don't even know if it
intense,
would
right?
ding.
We don't really have bell ringers anymore. You know, the churches, their bells just automatically ring. But that was like a thing back there, and I think it was it like a, I don't know if it was like a cool job to have. I don't know if they were like, yeah, I'm the bell ringer of the church.
I'm gonna go with probably not
Probably
if
not.
Quasi's doing it.
Yeah, probably not.
And I feel bad for saying that, but I feel like
I don't think it was like a
Like, it sounds
glorified
cool,
job.
but-
it sounds super cool.
And honestly, like,
I can't wait to grow up and become a bell ringer.
yes,
All that
he
upper
lives,
body strength.
He
Yeah.
lives in the top of this of Notre Dame, but he's got kind of a nice little setup there for himself.
Oh yeah.
You know,
He's
he
got a
kind
little
of has
studio
his own
apartment.
Yeah, he's
little
got a loft,
space.
you know?
He's carving his things. At least he's like made his own little space there.
He
So that's the
technically-
only thing that makes me feel a little bit better about his situation. Is like, okay, he made the most out of a bad situation.
Right.
type
He's
of
probably
thing.
got like 4,000 square feet up there. You know. He's doing well for himself.
Uh,
No rent.
But the thing that scares me the most about him is like,
we all know all
Sanctuary.
about
I understand that, yes, he's very strong, but he's also got some Tarzan-like abilities because
Oh,
he is
yeah.
for
just
sure.
whoosh,
He
like
is
on the
climbing.
everywhere.
He is swanging.
We're watching this, and I just was like, parkour.
Oh my gosh, yes,
Because-
parkour.
I think I
He
wrote
like
that down,
jumps
too.
off the building, jumps onto another one, jumps, legs, knees, elbow. Like, all right, bro.
And I'm trying to think of like, yes, he's very strong, but also the way that his body is shaped. Like, I'm sure that's not easy for him, but
Right,
he's
yeah.
got some.
But he's extremely agile.
His
No,
little arms are very
he would
little.
win.
Yeah.
He would win the Special Olympics. Like if
I
he was
mean,
in
yeah.
it, he's
That's
a
very
strong
that's
dude.
very true.
He's doing his thing. But, you know, I like Quasimodo a lot. He's like a very likable character.
Yeah.
You
Very much so.
He's the
immediately
nicest dude.
sympathize with him. He has this nice, I really like his voice, like the voice actor for him.
I said
like,
that too.
I like his voice a lot.
Yes.
I like his voice, and I like. Is the singing? Does the voice actor do the singing as well,
I
Andre?
think it's the same
Because
guy.
I love,
I love his
singing voice.
Yes, it's very good.
It's beautiful. It's calm. It's not like whiny at all, because he has like when he sings the Heaven's Light song, like it could have gotten really whiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very pretty though.
Tom Hulse or Holche as Quasimodo, and yes, he does the voice and the singing.
Well,
voice.
I liked it. I
Yeah.
I like it too.
appreciated
He had a
Tom
very, very
Holland.
good voice.
Not.
Tom Holland.
He is kind of Spidey-like. I'm just
British
saying.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like a
very
Spider-Man too. This dude's got
Yeah.
some superpowers,
I'm very
man.
happy with the amount of Disney characters that are similar to Spider-Man. It makes
Yeah.
me very
So
happy.
I love Quasimodo. Like he's fabulous. And you know, he's talking to his gargoyles, which what are their names?
Their names are
Oh, yeah.
Victor Hugo and Laverne.
Yes.
So Victor
Yeah.
Hugo is the author of
Mm-hmm.
uh,
The book.
the book
Yes.
Notre Dame de Paris.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so I was looking on his Wikipedia page to see like where Laverne came from. I was like, maybe Laverne was his middle name or something like that. Maybe back then Laverne was like a male name, but no, his full name is Victor Marie Hugo. So I don't know why they didn't use
Laverne.
Marie.
Oh, I looked at.
Oh, did you find it? 'Cause
But did you see that all the bells were named Marie? Did you notice
Yes.
that it was like Big Marie, Little
Yeah,
Marie,
yeah.
Sister Marie?
Yeah.
Hold on, there was a reason for
For Laverne?
Laverne was named after Laverne Andrews, one of the Andrews sisters.
Who are the Andrews sisters?
Well, look it up,
Oh,
bro.
okay.
But yes, Victor and Hugo were for Victor Hugo.
Gotcha.
It's super interesting though, because so Victor Hugo wrote the book. Say it again.
The Notre Dame de Paris.
Thank you. Which means Our Lady of Paris, right?
Right.
Which is interesting because, of course, they're talking about the building,
Yes.
right?
The church,
But
yes.
they're
But it
also,
also
talking,
refers to Esmeralda.
right? So they're talking about how she kind of became this woman of Paris, and then when they translated it over into English, it became the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So then it became more about him than it did about her.
Right.
So it's just interesting how like the
How it
translation can
shifted.
even change like the emphasis of the
Honestly,
story.
I probably wouldn't even mind reading that book. I probably would, but I would have to be prepared.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
it gets-
'Cause it's-
prepared.
yeah, you best be prepared because the ending ain't good, girl.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
maybe
came
I
out
won't
in
then. I'll just stick with this Disney movie.
1831. And
Wow.
You want to know how bad it was then? everybody be dying.
Everybody be dying.
I thought everyone was going to die in this movie too, quite honestly. Paris was on France and then on fire, then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Paris was on France.
Paris was on France.
Paris was on fire and then it wasn't.
France
so
was
I was
on
real
fire.
confused. Right? I can't talk. It's very early in the
Literally
morning.
from one moment to the next, it's on fire and then it's not.
Right, yeah.
But the
so
good thing is this was post-plague, so I mean,
Yeah.
they just had to-
post-plague. We already dealt with that
good.
in Beauty and the Beast. We're
Yeah.
done with the
That's
plague.
what all these crypts down here are for.
Yeah, exactly.
Court of
Gosh,
Miracles.
we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Anyways, so he's talking to his gargoyles, which are basically a figment of his imagination. I will call them the figments from here on out
Okay.
because I like calling them the figments.
the figs.
Figs.
The figs.
It is the Feast of Fools.
Yes.
Is
the festival is
the
happening.
festival going on, and they're trying to
Festival.
convince him to go down there, and he's like, come on, go down there, the master won't see you. They're being the worst influence, really, because I imagine Frollo, I thought Frollo would kill him,
Yeah.
quite honestly,
Yeah.
if he left the tower, it's interesting because I don't think people know that he raises him per se. They just know he's up in the tower.
Right,
They
I don't-
know there's
Yeah.
the Hunchback is up there.
Yeah, I don't think the public knows
That
that
Frollo
Frollo has any
No,
association
I
with,
agree.
with Quasimodo.
Yeah, no. So
I think that's better left unsaid for Frollo.
And yeah, exactly. He's like, no.
he wants to go
You
down
can't be
there,
seen with me.
and Frollo is like, "Come on, Quasi, you're not going down there," because he calls him stupid a lot, and
Mhm.
He does.
and I
You're a
am
monster.
ugly. Oh, the beginning of that song is just like, "Come on, no," and he's singing it in his nice little
Yeah.
voice too, and it makes me think of him as I know he's 20, but it
Only a
makes
monster
that's a really great song though. I like
Yes.
it.
It's so sad, though.
out there.
Andre loves singing that in the car.
I love that song. That might be the best song in this movie, if not for Hellfire. Those are my favorite songs.
Whoa.
Whoa.
God help the outcasts.
God Help the Outcast is great, but
That's your favorite?
Oh,
No,
jeez.
no. I agree with Andre.
Like I literally had to sing it like an opera person at 5 o'clock in the morning this
Oh,
morning. So
well, I
that
was singing
like
it.
on purpose being ridiculous
Yes.
because if not I was gonna cry. Like I was like,
Yes, God help the outcast.
Well,
how
we do that
Gregorian
too.
Can I get?
It's a great song. There's once again, come on, Alan Menken,
I
you've
know.
outdone yourself.
But the worst song is during this festival, Mr. Topsy Turvy.
Oh, hold on.
Die.
Get back to the song. So he's singing, he's doing his Tarzan-y things.
Yeah.
That song is it
Out
hits
there?
it hits a string in my heart.
Because he wants to be out there.
Yeah.
Because he wants to know when his life will
Out
begin.
there, all
Like
I ask
Rapunzel?
is one.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, this movie is tangled. Like I was doing parallels the whole freaking time.
Someday
Quasimodo
out
and Rapunzel just
there.
high-fiving constantly.
No,
Also,
it's Quasimodo with Rapunzel's
Yeah.
hair, dude.
Also,
That's it.
I'll have you know
Man,
that
if I
this
just had some
movie
hair.
I'll have you know.
has so many birds in it, especially in that song, because every song at the end, you gotta like put your hands up in the air, and Quasi does that, but then the birds are like, boom, there they are, pigeons,
He doesn't get fireworks. He gets pigeons.
Birds.
Pigeons, yeah, lots of pigeons.
pigeons, which
That is a downside to his super nice loft apartment. There's a lot of bird poop up there. Just
Yeah.
lots of it.
at
All
least
over his
they're only
gargoyle
really
friends.
bugging one figment of his imagination, not him,
Poor Hugo.
per se.
No, it was Laverne.
Laverne, the
Oh, yeah,
girl
that's
one,
right,
it's
Laverne.
Laverne, the grandma looking one. Yes. So that song happens, and then it's weird because he literally like just decides to go. He's like, okay, I'll go.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going down there.
Screw it.
Yeah. So he goes.
This is probably a bad idea. And
He
puts on his
sneaks
cape.
out, and yes, and then Clopin. I keep wanting to call him Cloppin.
Call him Cloppin.
Clapping.
Clappin.
Clapping comes in.
Clopin comes in, and I like that song, Emily.
Ugh.
Topsy Turvy is not my favorite song.
Topsy-turvy.
I like what's happening during the scene.
I'm not saying I don't like it. It just doesn't fit for me. Like out of all of this
Oh.
other beautiful, like the whole.
Orchestral.
Yes, the other songs are very much in a theme, and it's funny because Luis kind of kept saying like, this music isn't my favorite in this movie, and I said out of all of the Disney movies, I like this type of music
Right.
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from like choral background, like
Mhm.
you just
We can
It's really fun
appreciate
to
it
sing.
a little
They were
bit
like
more.
singing in Latin, and we had the subtitles on. So
Yeah.
we're like, oh, perfect.
Oh my god! And I told Andre, I was like, I miss singing in Latin so much. I
Oh, me
love
too.
Singing in Latin made you feel like literally like you're part of the heavens. Like, ooh, like you just gotta singing in Latin is so
Luis
cool.
kept asking, who is Kiri Eleison? I'm like, stop. First off, it's Kyrie eleison. Like, you can't just say, like, Kyrie eleison.
But the weird thing
Who
is,
is
like, I
Kyrie
can read
eleison?
Latin now because of choir so many years. And, like, people like Luis aren't going to read Latin.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know it's
He's
QDA.
like, who is that?
That's so funny.
Shut
Kyrie
up.
eleison.
Who is Kyrie eleison? I don't
Hilarious.
know.
So yes, I agree with you in that way, but I also think it's needed because we needed a little something.
Oh,
fun.
for sure. Again, if we didn't have these fun moments, this movie would be
Right.
and not a
There's this
drag.
song, and then there's the
but
song
like-
that the gargoyles sing.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
that I can't be doing that one.
I don't like
that one's
song.
worse.
That one's
Okay,
silly, yeah.
there
That
you go.
song wasn't needed.
Well, in
was
context,
needed,
it
but-
was needed for your emotions,
Yeah.
girl.
I know, but I wasn't fond of that
Because there was
But,
hellfire and then literal fire.
Mhm.
I was okay with the Hellfire song. I liked it, but you know, like I
So
tell
good.
people all the time, is that I love dramatic movies. Like I love Les Mis, and people are like, "How do you watch that all?" Like I don't watch it quite frequently because I can't. You know what I mean? Because it's just
You can only do so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Let's do a
I
Les
can't-
Mis Quasimodo crossover.
I can't be watching Les Mis every weekend. Like it's not gonna happen. I watch it like once every 3 years. But
This is that
Les
movie
Mis
too.
is like
Yeah.
woohoo, and so is Hunchback. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
for sure.
I love that kind of drama where it's
Well, that's why I
real.
have to make
It's
it
real.
funny so that it's not as emotional.
Mhm.
See, but I like that. I don't know. I guess I'm weird. I want to just be like down in the dumps for a second and be like, just let it come through your soul, like the feels.
Girl, I can't.
Ooh,
No.
just let it come up in there.
Look
you
like
know?
you're gonna throw up.
Regurgitating the feelings.
Sadness.
Sadness. Oh. And then you know what I do after is
Oh,
I'll like
Jesus.
pop on an episode of The Office and I'm like, I'm okay. It's fine.
Man,
But you know,
I don't let myself feel sadness like either of you.
but if you think
This is
about
ridiculous.
if you think about Topsy Turvy, it still ended in turmoil.
Oh God.
well, sure, yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very
So
bad.
they're going
Not for
through-
children's eyes.
Everybody's
That
got
was-
fun costumes on. Hey,
ugly
we're
face is the
we're gonna,
best
We're
on
gonna
the
crown
day.
the king of fools. Who's the ugliest dude out here? Get up here. we'll crown you the ugliest person on this topsy-turvy day.
And everyone's pretty much trying to be ugly.
Yeah.
Like they cool with it.
We'll
just
take off
being
this
a bunch of
mask. We'll
weirdos,
take
you
out
know?
this mask. We'll toss
It's
you in the
almost kind of
pile.
like Mardi Gras. Like, let's just be weird.
Yeah,
and, like,
and they're
eccentric
drunk, so
and
it's like whatevs.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And then Quasimodo gets pulled up there.
they try to pull his
And
face.
they try to pull
and,
his face off, and
It's his face.
Actually, I think at one point Esmeralda was like talking to him, and she's like, "Oh, you got a great mask. That is fantastic. It looks amazing." And then she pulls him
Yeah,
up.
she
And
does.
Quasi's like,
Oh, thanks.
He's like, I'll take that.
No one's
Sure.
ever told me my face looks great
Pretty
before.
girls talking to me. Thank you.
yeah.
Exactly. So then she tries to pull off his face, and turns out it's his real face, and they're like, "Whoa."
And I tried to, this is me trying to justify it, for the time period that this movie occurs in, they've probably never seen somebody like this. And I think it's pretty common that if the child looked like that it was born, they probably would have killed it. Like, I don't think they would have raised him, per se. Like, I think for this time period, and I think they, quote unquote, there comes the outcast song. You know, they like outcast all of these different
Yeah.
people.
Sure.
So I think to them it was probably terrifying. Like to see somebody like that, I would have seen somebody like that today and been like, "Oh, okay."
On the other hand,
I don't know.
this is 1820s, 1830s France, and none of these people have toothbrushes, okay? Everybody out here looks ugly, okay? None of y'all have any room to talk. Friggin' toothless Beth over here is throwing tomatoes at Quasimodo.
The only good-looking person was Esmeralda. And it's because she
Exactly.
was a gypsy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All y'all need to settle down.
'Cause
You
this
don't
is, yeah,
look
this
great.
is like
Look in the mirror.
1800s, right? So the mentality to see someone per se like him is going to be way different than like us right now. But it's freaking awful. They like tie him down to a,
Ugh.
what is it? I don't know. It's a thing it spins on. And they're throwing tomatoes at him and, you know,
Why did all y'all bring tomatoes to this festival? What's going on?
because they were just, they
They
were
were
ready
ready.
to throw some tomatoes, you know?
Well, the worst part is it started with the guards. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I realized that
yeah,
like
we
they're
missed a guard introduction.
like they so Frollo, like I know we said this, but Frollo is the judge, pretty much sounds like judge, jury, and executioner of his like
Yeah.
court of law.
I think his title is like minister. Is that what his title is?
I think they call him minister, yes.
Yeah.
perhaps. But so it sounds like he gets control of all of the guard,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everyone. So because of that, he is at this festival and he sees all this crazy stuff going on and he realizes it's Quasimodo. And so Esmeralda wants to like get him, like she's like trying to like kind of navigate it to kind of help him, and he's like no.
No.
And so
He
they
must be
start
punished.
throwing fruits
But
and
then
veggies.
also we missed an introduction of a guard member. Frollo, is he just like a war general?
Are we talking
He's
about Phoebus?
Captain.
Yes,
Yeah,
Phoebus is a captain.
Yes, thank you.
He was out in the war, and he gets brought in to
for something very important, it seems like.
yeah.
Very important. We gotta take over the gypsies. This just Frollo is
Right, yeah. Frollo's calling him in to get a handle on what he's determining the gypsy problem in France. And
Which
there's
is
that
more
really
important than the
creepy
war, apparently.
ant
Right.
analogy going on. I was like, oh, I'm not about this.
but Phoebus is just like the chillest dude on earth. He's the most charming man that has ever been, and he's just
Andre's in
go
love.
with the flow with it. Yeah,
so
I kind of love
even when
Phoebus.
when this is happening, he asks Frollo, he's like, permission to stop this treachery or something like that, and Frollo is like, no. A lesson needs to be learned here.
Right.
And then I think Phoebus is kind of like, what the? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's immediately, that was like that wasn't even the first sign. There was signs when he met him originally. When he's explaining things, he's like, this is what we're doing.
Right,
Like I left the war for this.
Phoebus seems like he's very good at his job, and he was not trained in this way, like to
No.
just
Corrupt.
be corrupt and be awful to the citizens he's sworn to protect. Or
Well, and I
whatever.
think it's too because he sees it as like a misuse of the power that they have, and he has a compassionate heart because even though like he saw Esmeralda first like on the street, and of course, I mean I don't want to like make him sound like holier than thou, but like he saw her, she cute, like
Yeah.
like you know he wants to help her, but at the same time like. You could see the compassion
Right.
aspect as well, that he's like, these people don't have jobs, like they're
Exactly.
literally dancing for money, like let's do what we can to like
Yeah.
Right.
save them from literally
I'm
getting
like,
in
if they
prison
break
for
laws,
nothing.
we'll take them in, but we don't need to
Arrest
beat
them for
in
nothing.
the streets, yeah, or anything like that.
One of the funniest moments with Phoebus, though, is when Esmeralda comes out on the Feast of Fools and she's dancing, right? And she's like getting it. She's doing a whole little magic thing. And Frollo's like, oh, look at this. And he's like, okay.
He's like, you got it.
Yeah, I think he says, like, you got it. And he's like, all right, I will. Hilarious.
Oh,
So
God.
eventually, Esmeralda is able to free Quasi.
Yeah, she's like stands
But
up
then
for
they're
him.
on a manhunt for her, right? Because she like stands up for him in front of everyone. So she makes this is where I guess she becomes like the woman of the city, like
Right.
you're saying.
She's
She's like
y'all don't deserve to be treating him this way. You, Sir Frollo, you suck. You're awful.
You treat us the same way that you treat him. You don't even care about your people.
Right, it's
and
not
he's,
fair.
What does she say? He says like insolence or
yeah.
no, what does he say?
She says, yeah, I think he does say insolence.
And she's like,
justice.
And
They're
you're like,
woo.
okay.
Alrighty then.
You do you,
Hello.
girl.
She's got all kinds of skills. I like her dancing and her social justice. This is awesome. Fantastic.
And then we're over here talking about women empowerment with some of these other princesses. Like,
Exactly,
get it
but
on, Esmeralda.
Esmeralda is doing the most.
Esmeralda is so stinking cool. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't
Yeah.
give a rat's tootie about anything. She's like, I'm gonna yeah, I wouldn't have done that in front of Frollo, especially for the times thing about she dead right then. She's
Oh,
dead,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Oh,
but
yeah.
basically she is dead. So Frollo goes on this crazy manhunt for her.
Frollo's
It's
like, I have never been
insane.
embarrassed like this in my life. I am now obsessed with you. So I've
Well, I
got
can
to
understand it. Like, I'm not saying like I understand it and it's right. I'm just saying like from his point of view, he masters control because of fear.
Right.
And so she literally put him on super blast.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the worst amount of embarrassment that he could possibly take.
Right.
And so now he has to make publicly a
show of force.
Yes, he has to show that he still has the power. And if he doesn't, then who's going to take him seriously?
Right.
Right? Because if this like lady is going to stand up to him, who is also very smoldery,
Right.
then who else is going to stand up? Right? So I get it from his side of
Right.
of the
The
horse.
coin.
it's just crazy though.
But
it's
on
crazy.
this side of Snowball.
So
but
even like she goes into Notre Dame and quote unquote, Phoebus is like, oh, she claims sanctuary. We can't arrest her.
They have a little flirty fight.
Yeah, they have a flirty fight.
That's fun.
flirty
Um,
fight. We'll be talking about
she-
that later on the crash.
She claims sanctuary, so we can't arrest her. And so Frollo's insane. He literally puts every single guard outside the walls.
No,
and it's
straight up before that, he's like, well, then drag her out by her freaking hair.
Right, yeah.
And then we'll arrest her out there.
And Phoebus basically says no.
Well,
and he's like,
and the archdeacon comes back
Yeah,
out and is
it's
like,
oh, yeah.
Bro,
yes,
what did I
yes.
tell you 20 years ago? You can't be doing this
how
in
many
here.
times I gotta tell you?
This is Notre
And
Dame.
at this point, Frollo at least is still kind of trying to respect the church. Like, he's trying
Hard, really.
really hard to respect the church.
Yeah. But
You know, so he's
Yeah, I
like,
guess
fine. He's
trying.
really
He's losing
mad.
it.
Sets all the guards up. And then, Esmeralda and Quasi just got their moments too, which is nice. She's really accepting of him. He shows her space and all of this stuff. And he's like, fine, I'm going to bust you out, girl.
Hey,
and he
But
does.
you missed the song.
What song did I miss?
The song that's important.
Yes.
You guys.
yes. And then
Oh,
they have
shoot.
like,
I did.
they have a
Sorry.
duality
Listen, I don't
there.
know this movie as well as others.
we just watched it.
Sorry.
I watched it less than
I
10
forget.
hours
Yeah,
ago, so I got
she
this.
sings that before Quasi comes in.
Yeah,
right?
but it's literally in the same scene.
Yes.
But the reason I like that song so much, I think, is not even that the song is beautiful, because it is, but this movie reminds me of a classic musical, because without some of the songs, the dialogue and the movie itself wouldn't be as poignant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
it's not just a song for singing's sake. Like
No.
we're not just
Well,
like,
I
This
said
is
that
a
to
song-
Andre
sing.
because
This is a song to
when the
move along
movie
the
started,
plot.
I said, "Is this Menken?" And he's like, "Let me look it up," and it was. And I was like, "Because Alan Menken does such a brilliant job of doing those conversational songs
Well,
that
like we were-
move that are needed for the plot."
Well, like we were talking about the first song, the Bells of Notre Dame song.
Yeah.
Apparently, they did like 2 full rewrites of that beginning song, and it was Clopin. He was talking he was just dialoguing the entire thing,
Right.
and they kept saying like it's too boring. So then they put it into the song.
that's Menken for you.
And made it super interesting, and now like that song is literally 20 years worth of history in a 3-minute song. Like that's, without that, you're losing so much information.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel about this one too, because it shows that she understands like her social status. She understands like her, I don't want to say that she's an outcast, because obviously,
Sure.
but that you kind of see how everyone is so repentant because they realize, that
Yeah.
life is
But I
sucking at
also
this
Right.
point in
think-
Paris.
Life
I
is awful.
also think it really like puts Esmeralda as higher up, like in her moral status.
Yes.
Because even like, they're like, I ask for love, I ask for whatever. And then she just turns around and was like, I ask for nothing.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, get it, Esmeralda. So
Yeah.
she's just
Right.
like way up
She's
higher
like,
than
I
everyone
don't,
else.
she's like,
you
I
know?
don't need anything. Just seriously, like, help
Like
the
just
people.
help everybody else, 'cause
'Cause
we're
this is rough.
struggling out here.
That's like my
It is
favorite.
a
That's
rough
like my
life.
favorite part of that song is when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, I ask for this, I don't, and she's like, I ask for nothing. I'm like, oh, get it, girl, sing it. It's really
Get
good. I just got chills a little bit.
I
Yeah,
know.
I try to ignore that song because that's kind of one of the ones that will make you teary a little
I'm
bit.
telling you. I literally looked at Luis and I'm like, you best not pay attention to this part. He's like, I ain't paying attention. I'm like, no, seriously, don't pay attention. He's like, you're telling yourself. I'm like, okay, you're right. You're right. I'm telling myself.
yeah. It's a song. It's a feels one.
It's
for
a
sure.
feels one.
It's an
But it makes
introspective-
you love Esmeralda even more.
Oh,
like
for sure.
She's a great character.
Yeah.
So then
So now-
she meets Quasi.
Quasi's going to bust her out of this joint.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Hop on my back. Grab your goat.
Which is so funny.
The poor
because
goat.
The goat, his name is Jolly, right?
Yeah,
And I
I love him,
I
Jolly.
always thought it was Jolly like Santa Claus Jolly.
No, it's like DeJolly.
Yeah, and then with
Right,
the
with the
subtitles,
subtitles you
I was
see.
like, oh, DHAJLI.
Yeah.
That makes so much more
Jolly.
sense, because I was like, why is this goat's name Jolly? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me even as a kid.
I like when Phoebus is like meeting Esmeralda in the church, and he's like, "I didn't know you had a kid."
So funny.
I love
Goat
Jolly. He's so cute. I like
Goat jokes.
Goat jokes.
Goat
he's,
jokes.
he's a cute little goat. I like him. He's so cute.
He is. He's rambunctious.
Also, I'm looking way too far.
Kind of Pascal-y, let's just say.
I'm
Right.
looking way too far into this because we just started watching a Sabrina the Teenage Witch remake, but a goat is kind of like don't they like it's like a demonish animal? Like, isn't the devil supposed to be like a goat?
Sure.
But he's a jolly goat.
In some
Just saying.
clopping all up in the church.
He's a cute.
Clopin in the church.
Oh,
the best
Clopin.
thing about him too is that he has the earring.
Yeah, he's
I'm like, who
blinging.
gave that goat an earring? Come on.
He's very distinct.
They all have earrings.
They do all have earrings.
Yeah, I know, but the goat, come on, the goat has an earring. It's great. I like him.
Jolly.
So
Jolly.
Quasimodo busts her out. She gives him a pendant. Is that what that thing is?
Yes.
That is like a
Like a
Yes.
woven.
It's like a woven necklace.
Pendant.
yeah, woven pendant necklace. And she says, what's the phrase? When you hold this in your hand, the city is also at hand. I don't remember.
It's basically
When you wear this woven band,
You hold
You hold the city in your hand.
It took me a second.
I was pretty close. Yeah. So
Where do you think I got the word woven from? It wasn't the same.
So yeah, she gives him a literal mini map. It's really cool that he gets to hold on to his on his neck.
Which
and
I,
he's just like, oh, a piece of Esmeralda is with me. You know, that's
which I like it because later on, I know I'm jumping ahead, but later on Phoebus is like, this is not a map. And he's like, nah, I just told you. She said it was a map. He's like, nah.
This isn't
I'm a
map.
captain. This ain't a map. Like, bruh, look at it. It's a map.
he's so funny.
He's like, I know the city. I know the city.
They crack me up.
They're so
Those
I
two
know.
are very funny
They're
together.
like, truce. We got work to get. Truce.
We got
Because at
work
that
to
point,
get done.
Quasi knows he didn't get the girl, so he's like,
Fine.
Right.
Phoebus.
Yeah.
You know, just being a little 20-year-old.
That's a very interesting aspect of this movie that I don't think I've seen in any other kind of kids movie
Yep.
before, where the protagonist is there, he meets the girl, and the girl is like, you're cool. And then a different hero comes in and sweeps the girl off her feet, and the protagonist is like, well, this is fine. I'm okay with this.
And he's the
Yeah.
friend.
I'm not going to be sad forever.
But it was, I like that dynamic because it was needed. And he does sing a song about like how he wants to feel love and
Yeah.
la la la. And then he does realize in the end, like Esmeralda does love him and like cares
Very
about
much
him. And
so.
so
Yeah.
he's like, oh, okay, this is love, you know. And he's like more accepting of himself. And
Which
stuff.
again makes this movie much more realistic.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that happens. Like, you
Yeah.
gonna be friend zoned. In some point in your life, you're gonna be friend zoned.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's fine because it's nice to have lady friends who help you out from people throwing tomatoes at you.
For sure. Yeah.
You know?
Andre's a comedian, everyone. So if you want to be his lady friend,
please-
save him from
Please
tomatoes.
help me
friend.
from these. Save me from these hecklers.
I don't know. Free tomatoes
They're
if you can
rough out
catch
here.
them, you know.
tomatoes.
You can catch them though.
Okay, so
No, we should throw blocks of cheese at him.
Yum.
Well, Andre
Gross.
doesn't like cheese, so
Oh.
I think
Yeah.
that's something we should throw at
It's a
him.
little bit
that's the most
harder.
vile
Like,
thing I've
whoa.
ever said.
I would be just like standing there with my mouth open.
Nom, 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 nom.
Gross.
Oh, I
Delicious.
realized I
Bring
asked
back
you
the
if you wanted a
tomatoes.
cheese stick last week.
Yeah,
and
you
that's
did.
about
I was like,
it.
ew.
No.
So,
I was
all-
insulted.
oh my gosh. The guards figure out that Esmeralda has escaped, and Frollo is pissed.
Yeah,
He's
Frollo
like,
goes
so
on.
she got out of there and y'all didn't see her? Like, basically, that's what he's saying. He is mad.
Frollo's on the warpath at this point.
I just am surprised it took him that long to think of Quasimodo. Like,
Right.
he's the only one, or like the Archdeacon. Like,
Because he was so
Yeah.
At this moment, he was infatuated with himself. Staring
Yeah.
at himself in the fire, staring at Esmeralda dancing in the fire. He's just thinking about
Fire.
thinking about
Fire.
himself. And
Fire.
then, ooh, I love a good villain song, and that's a good villain song.
jeez.
It's also very intense. I told some of my coworkers, they're like, hey, what movie are you doing this week? And I was like, oh, we're doing The Hunchback of Notre Dame. They were like, oh, that movie where he sings about raping her? And I was like, yeah, well, that's literally what they said. And I was
Oh,
like,
my.
does that happen in there? Like, I had to think about it. But he is kind of very like, you can be with me or you can die. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
jeez, that's just
You
really
just made that
intense.
sound much happier than it actually sounded. Be with me or die. Boom.
But it's a good, I like the fire visuals and everything.
Oh,
like,
they
it's
did.
very good.
And the judges, like they were like demon judges.
Right,
that,
yeah.
Yes,
like,
yes,
pop up
yes.
out
All
of the floor.
robed.
Ooh,
Yes.
scary.
It's very spooky.
So now you can
Like, I
kind
don't
of,
care if you're religious or not. That stuff is scary.
Right.
it was scary. And also, he has a really good voice. So just saying.
Dude, Frollo's
Frollo's killing it.
He has an amazing speaking voice, and then his singing voice is just as good.
Do you want to know who this dude is? Do you know who
Tony
it is?
J.
So
is his
Tony
name.
was apparently so think back to Beauty and the Beast, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
And he was the guy who played, I can't remember what his name is now.
He was like the Undertaker.
yeah,
dude.
he was the Undertaker, not the
Oh.
Undertaker.
Right, not an Undertaker,
The
but
but he looked like an Undertaker.
right.
The dude from the insane asylum.
Yes.
Oh, really?
with like the
To
green
be
face
excited.
and the
From the
scary
animated?
figures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah.
So he played them, and apparently when he auditioned for the role of that asylum director, I don't know what he is.
I'm the director of an asylum.
Thank you. He auditioned, and they used the film, or not the film, the voice from his audition in the movie because they were just like, it was perfect.
Right,
Like,
that's-
use
that's
that.
it.
That's all we need. So
Oh,
then
wow.
he didn't even get like. He just got contacted for this movie and was like, "So we're gonna do this movie, and we want you to be Frollo.
You're gonna be
Like
Frollo.
you and
Nice.
you and your scary voice can come on over and
That's
be."
amazing,
man.
though.
Well, and it's great because he had like a little mini part in that movie,
Right.
yeah.
And they were like, "No, you
No,
perf, come
you're
over
a-
here."
you're a
his voice
star.
His voice is great, and like even when
Fantastic.
he's singing Hellfire, like you want to hate him, but his voice also sounds really good. So I was like, man, he's getting these vocals. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
he's
and
hitting
the
them
the
hard.
orchestration is so gorgeous. Like the music
Right.
is so like
Hellfire,
fantastic that the
yeah,
two
he
of
gets
them
that
together.
operatic thing going on, you know.
Boop, boop, boop. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, very good song. Very. It's interesting seeing he's like torn between two sides of religion, like the devil and the like. But I need to do this and repent for my sins, and he's like, you could tell he's like struggling.
He's incredibly conflicted.
But
Well,
I'm
and I
also
mean-
like, you know, you're a bad dude.
Well, and even if even if you don't have like that type of belief, like in a religious sense, like the moral implication is the same.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's why
Like,
my coworkers were like, "Oh, singing that song," because he is like thinking about he's thinking about her. We know he is.
Oh well, then
You
and
know,
he says
so-
it in the song. He pretty much says like take these lustful, because he's asking Maria, so he's like
Right.
like singing to the Virgin Mary, right? And he's like, please take these like thoughts from my
Get
head
this
because
girl out of here.
this stuff's
'cause
getting
She
crazy.
is doing stuff to me.
And then I think that's kind of how he like comes to the idea of this, like either take her from me physically or let me just like be at peace with her. Like this is like we need one or the other here because I'm gonna lose it.
right, and he does lose it.
He loses
Lose
his
it, he does.
mind. He ransacks Paris, trying to burn people in their homes. Like he literally
Oh,
goes
Lord.
insane.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
The
So,
sane is gone. It's in.
all of
Yeah,
his same
he was
in.
torn in that song. You ain't torn no more, dude. We know what
Right.
you're
He's
doing.
like, okay, she'll burn, and I'll burn everything else to get her to burn.
Might as well make an example of everyone.
Yeah, everybody getting burnt. So yeah, it goes to that scene where he goes to the house with Phoebus
Because it
because
was
they
like a sanctuary.
think that
for
they're hiding people. And the dude's like, "Oh, no, I don't hide anybody here. You know, I let people come in. I'm a kind of nice guy." And he's like, all right, well, if it turns out that you're innocent, then you have nothing to fear. And then
I'll
he
let
walks
you.
out.
No, he puts him on house arrest. He says
Right.
that you're on house arrest until I can figure this out.
Yeah. And then
And
he
he
locks
burns
the
it.
house, and then he's like, "Phoebus, set it ablaze." And Phoebus was like, "No, are you insane? There's
I
two
love
kids in
Phoebus
there."
because Phoebus will stand up to him. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
dude.
Me and Phoebus
Like-
both said "what" at the same time. We're like,
What?
What?
I had forgotten about this part. I probably pushed it out of my head. We've watched this as a couple together. It was one of the first
Yes.
Disney movies we watched
I
together
believe
because I
so.
remember you really wanted to watch it. But I think I kind of pushed that out of my mind because
yeah.
that's dark.
It's very
yeah,
rough.
I had forgotten about it too. And so Frollo, he's like, "Well, if you're not gonna do it, I'll set it ablaze myself."
And now you're like insolent,
Right.
Oh, and
insubordinate.
the punishment is death, by
Yeah.
the way.
Bye, bro.
you gotta obey.
But
or
I
die.
love Phoebus in this moment because he steals his horse. I
Yeah.
was like, get it.
And Frollo's
Steal that horse.
like, "Shoot him, but don't hit my horse." And they do. They're very good shots. All the archers.
They are very good shots, and he falls in the river. And
Better than stormtroopers.
Frollo is crazy. He's like, let
Word.
him rot in his
watery grave.
watery grave. I'm like, calm down, sir. Like, he's on a level at this point. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he's on a level. That's
I'm
for
on
sure.
a level.
He's doing the most.
Darn
Tootin' I'm on a level. He's doing the most, and Esmeralda kind of, she's hiding in the background of this, and she sees what happens, and she goes and saves him, and takes him to Quasi, because we're still assuming at this point that Notre Dame is a sanctuary,
Right.
Which in my mind I'm like, he ain't safe there at all.
That's what I thought.
and
like,
then at
Oy.
this point, Frollo finally puts the Quasi thing together. It took him a long time to figure it because he's like, well,
Yeah.
then he's like, I don't understand how she escaped, and he's like, unless.
hold on. Here's
it took
my
him
thing,
that
though.
long.
I was thinking about that same thing during this movie while I was watching it, and I kind of want to assume that this whole movie, not like the 20 years prior, obviously, but like the main part of this movie happens in like 3 days.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a very
it
short
does.
amount of time.
So, I mean, if it took him a couple hours to put it together, it's not that big of a deal. It just feels like it took a long time.
Right.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, like that whole scene, like the beginning scene, topsy-turvy, Festival of Fools,
It's all
like
the same day.
that's all the same
Sanctuary,
day.
hanging out,
And-
escape.
Even when she escapes, it's
It's
night.
that
that night.
night.
Yeah, okay. And then this
And
is
he's
just the
al-
next day.
Yeah, so really it could have been like 2-3 days tops, whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So even though it feels like, geez, we're going on this for weeks,
Right.
like
Yeah. Goodness
It
gracious.
does. It does. You're right.
he's
so-
like, it took me 1 day after the Festival of Fools to burn this whole
Right.
city down.
yeah, he figures it out though, and so he goes to Quasi. It's hilarious because they're like his gargoyles, his figments are like stow the body, and they like
The
push.
stiff. They
Yeah,
call
we
him
got.
the
Oh, we
stiff.
got to stash the stiff or something like that. They like put him under the table.
Under the table. Frollo's like,
Hilarious.
I think you're hiding something. And it's this really cool shot where you can see Phoebus' limp old body underneath the table, right as Frollo is like staring Quasimodo
I will
down.
say that, yeah, Quasi got his moment when he makes a sound and he was able to kick him in the face.
Yeah.
That's what you get for taking my girl. So I like all that, but then how does he doesn't even really admit it, Quasi. Frollo's just like, I know you did it. Something.
Yeah.
I kind of forget what happens there.
No, okay, so what he doesn't even realize that Phoebus is there. Like, he
No.
Right.
doesn't figure that out, but what he says is, like, I know you helped her. And he's like, no, I didn't help her. And he's like, well, regardless, I'm just going to let you know that I know exactly where their sanctuary or where their Court of Miracles
Court
is.
of Miracles,
I know
yes.
exactly where they're hiding out, and we're going to go attack it at dawn with
Yeah.
1,000 men.
Yeah,
So,
so he kind of like
sucks
said
to
it.
suck.
Like that.
Which, I mean, worked out in his favor because he knew that
He would try
that
to
he
save
would
her.
try
try
to
to
go
save
and
her,
save her,
yes.
and that he would lead them right there.
Yeah.
So I've seen this movie probably like 10 times over the course of my entire life. I never got that he was setting him up until
this
this
time?
viewing. Yeah, I was like, oh, he's gonna follow him
Yeah.
right to where
I don't know
they're
if I
going.
remember that either as
Pretty
a kid.
smart.
Yeah,
but
never-
when I
never-
watched it this time, I was like, nah, he's gonna follow
Right,
him. Like
yeah.
that was very smart. That was very manipulative and awful of you, but very.
It
Yeah.
was
Smart.
very smart.
clever. You
But
clever.
Frollo's even
Clever.
like, I don't blame you for falling prey to her. He's basically like, she's like the embodiment of sin. Like
Right.
he
yeah.
can calm down.
He's
still.
putting a lot on Esmeralda's shoulders.
She's like, all I did was did a little dance.
Yeah.
Okay, I put on a red dress, I
Calm
danced
down.
a little bit. I need you to
That's
calm
it.
down
You
with
need
all
to
these.
chill, sir.
She's probably the first person to stand up to him, So he's
right.
like,
yeah. So
he's like, oh, my manhood is.
she's doing a
weakening."
lot to him emotionally.
Anyway,
In
And mentally.
1 day.
so yes, then they go on a little journey and they find. I don't remember this part. I don't remember that the hideout,
Miracles
the Court of
is down
Miracles, is in a crypt.
One of the French crypts. Yeah.
I did not remember that.
So these are the places that they store all of the bodies, the skeletons, the bones of the
Plague.
people who died during the plague. And
Yeah.
like there's tons of them, these catacombs that stretch miles and miles underneath the city.
And then they're like
that are still there to
sludging
this
through
day.
the water, and I was like, no, because we just watched like Haunted Mansion, and I was thinking of the same thing where I was like, no, don't
Yeah.
do it.
And also, there's like skeletons and bones just lining the walls, and Quasi and Phoebus are walking through like, oh, this is kind of creepy. This is awful. And then you see in the background like 3 skeletons get up and start following them, and it's all the gypsies hanging out down
Once
there.
they're like farther in there, it looks like they had a nice setup going underground,
Yeah.
like they fixed it up. But I can only imagine still how gross it is, But they had like a little town under there.
You got plenty of rats to eat, You get used to the smell. You get out and get some fresh air. That smells good.
Ratatouille.
They're committed to their revolution, guys, because I don't think I could. I could.
I don't even they're not even trying to revolutionize, girl. They're trying to survive.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just,
that's
they're just living.
So they get down there.
They need to get out of France. Like,
I don't
move along.
I don't understand Clopin in this moment because he knows who they are, and he's just like, let's burn them at the like.
Well,
he's
he
like, let's.
recognizes Phoebus as
He knows Quasi.
He recognizes Phoebus as the captain of Frollo's guard or whatever. So he's like, yo, you gotta go. And then Quasimodo's with him. So and I don't know that Clopin knows that he's associated with Frollo.
He says he thinks he's a spy.
Right. Yeah. So it I understand why he assumes that they're a couple of bad eggs.
Oh,
and gotta get gone.
I get it, but I was a little. I was like, come on, dude.
Well, it's like, Aren't you the narrator?
Well, he was
Shouldn't
like,
you be omniscient? Like,
I love how his,
like,
yeah,
you should know
omniscient.
everything all the
I love
time.
how his like outfits were changing. He was like, I'm the judge.
Yeah.
I'm also the executioner.
I'm
and I'm
Frollo
the
now.
I was like,
That
oh,
was funny.
calm
Yeah.
down, sir.
Clip
But
on.
you know, Esmeralda runs in and is like, you guys found me. Yay.
Yay, yay. Don't kill them.
They're my friends.
Those are my friends.
Yes. But
I love them.
alas, somebody else found them as well.
And here
Frollo
comes
comes in.
Frollo.
Literally
his men.
terrifying when he comes in. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
snap.
it was very scary.
He got his horse down there in that
Yeah,
crypt.
get that big old horse down them
How did
steps.
Snowball get down there?
Snowball.
Snowball.
Don't let them cramp you in these tight places, Snowball.
Can you imagine get stuck down there? Can't get back out. It's so sad.
Snowball probably got to eat a lot of apples.
Where's
He's too big.
Phoebus's horse at this time? I like Phoebus's horse. He's always telling them to sit on people.
His name was Achilles.
Yeah,
Achilles.
Achilles. Heel.
Nays before bays, guys.
Nays before
News
bays.
before bays.
I love it.
Anyway.
Never not true. In a Disney movie, at least.
I love it too.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, Frollo finds. How did they escape? Oh, they didn't.
So they didn't
JK,
escape.
they
Yeah.
didn't.
No, they do not escape.
I was like, how they didn't.
Frollo gets him, wraps him up, takes him to right in front of Notre
He
Dame.
ties Quasi up in his tower like in chains.
In chains,
so that
yeah.
he can
Watch
watch
him.
all
Yep.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Esmeralda's going to be burned at the stake, and that happened pretty closely. And I think Quasi's given up at this point, and it wasn't for the figments of his imagination. Like, he's definitely strong enough to break out of those chains, because he is...
The dude is breaking down the pillars of the church that the chains
Yeah.
are attached to.
He's strong.
He's a big boy. He's a strong boy.
Yeah.
He is.
I always call it his Tarzan moment, too, because he, like, gets the rope, he, like, swings down, swoops up the girl, and then, like, goes back up, and he's just, like... He almost looks like King Kong. He's, like... Like,
Right.
going
Oh,
up the
very
building,
much so.
you know, the
With
way
that, yeah.
he's, like,
Mhm.
doing that. I was like, whoa.
Well, then when he ends up at the top and he's yelling sanctuary, it's so like it's emotional, but it's also very interesting because it shows his understanding of the world as being
He
very
understands
small.
now.
Well, does he though? Because he still thinks that like they're not going to come in.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he's not. He doesn't understand like that. There's a point where people break and they're gonna discard everything that they hold
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get what they want.
I think the archdeacon had found that out earlier. It's like, oh, this dude doesn't care about the sanctity
Anymore.
of this place, and he's gonna mess all of us up.
Yeah, we about to get done.
Mhm. Yeah, so they
And
storm
at this
Notre
point,
Dame.
the town is like kind of they're fed up with Frollo because he's been like burning people and he's been
Yeah.
he's been killing
bit.
he's been killing innocents.
Very
So
unnecessarily.
now the town is like, what is going on?
We were not in
you know?
danger at all, and now you're the one causing us harm.
Yep.
Yes.
We got pickpocketed. I'm pretty sure I'm back.
Yeah.
I'll go back
Yes.
to that.
Yeah, I lost 5
So
coins.
he puts Esmeralda down, and I think is he trying to fight off people to come in? Or no, he lets Frollo come in, or Frollo just comes in.
Frollo enters. No.
Frollo enters.
Pretty much, Quasi starts throwing stuff from the top of the church.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's it's just like a
Like a barrage
A
scene.
battle begins,
Yeah, they
yes.
they start, and the figments help them. Help him create molten.
Yeah, so
Oh
Metal?
my gosh, what was that?
So I think
Metal?
Metal?
I think it is metal. I think it's what they use to like either build the bells or
Oh,
or
yes,
just
to build the
other
bells.
other parts of the church that needs upkeep.
That was
But yeah, so they have to
intense.
melt the metal, get it crazy hot,
Coming out of the ooh.
and they pour it out of like the actual gargoyles mouths on the church and just like let it spill out onto the street. Everybody burnt. Everybody is toasted.
And let's just talk
down
about
there.
like the scariest like scene from like an adult point of view, because it like pans out and you see all of Notre Dame like in every orifice like
yeah,
this.
it's just spilling
I'm
out.
calling it lava,
And a
but
lot
it's,
of
hot
the town is
liquid
on
metal
fire
lava.
too. Like
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's burning.
that's just so awful.
That's why
Yeah.
when they win at the end and everything's like all gone, I was like, what happened?
I need at least a little bit of like,
So
like
nothing's
charred.
burning now. Where'd all that metal go? I don't know. Yeah, so that happens and that is intense. And
And so Frollo somehow makes it into the building.
Yes,
he like
he
kind of
breaks
breaks
in.
down the door.
and then he just very calmly walks in because he sees. I think Quasi thinks Esmeralda's dead. He
Right.
can't. He can't wake her up, so he's crying over the body, and he's like, "It's okay. It's her time to go because, she tricked us
She was
or
evil.
something." But he sees like the shadow of the knife come up, because
Yeah.
he says like, I'm gonna release you from your suffering, or
In
something.
a very like Beauty and the Beast-esque way.
Yeah.
Like at the top of a tower, I'm going to mercilessly kill you for the greater good.
Yeah.
Like
Yes. So luckily he
mercifully.
looks up and he sees like that knife, and we know Quasi's strong, so he's like, boom, snap. He like gets the knife,
boom.
puts it on the ground. Frollo's on the wall, and Frollo immediately is like, oh,
Oh, my bad, sorry.
my bad, my
Don't
bad,
hurt me.
my bad. Don't kill me, my
Quasi.
bad. Yeah, basically that's what happens, and then
Jeez.
he's very mad at this point. They just got a whole battle scene going on between
Yes.
them two. Yeah, you're right. Very Beauty and the Beast.
They go on
like,
a whole journey on the top of the church, and Frollo's chasing them. And
Esmeralda come. No, she doesn't come in.
Esmeralda does wake up at some point. and
Yes.
attacks Frollo to save Quasimodo, and then she starts falling, and Quasi catches her, and Frollo's there, and he's trying to attack, and Frollo's making some bad judgment calls, jumping from gargoyle to gargoyle.
Like,
and
bro, you
with
are
his,
at least
with his
70.
sword, and he's like, oh,
he has
come
a
on.
sword. His eyes are bloodshot red.
They were yellow at
He
one
needs
point.
a nap.
Yes. So I like this because Frollo is hanging off the building by the gargoyle, and he thinks he's gonna get up, but I like that the gargoyle like changes into like an embodiment of the devil and is like, haha, and he takes him, right?
Right.
So I like that because it's just like proof, like, okay, he really did, like, Frollo is bad.
Yeah.
And the devil like had this plan, and that's like from a religious point of view.
You go,
from this
Michelle.
movie.
She's taking it there.
But
Take it
I'm
down.
taking it there because that to me is what it was when that gargoyle like literally changed into the embodiment of the devil and was like, and then like took him, into the hellfire, and it
Yeah.
was like, peace out. And then I guess
Well, it was kind of nice too because he said something like, and I can't remember, and it sounded biblical, so it might be in there somewhere. But like he said like something about eternal damnation, and he was like saying it as like, I'm saying it to you two,
Right.
and right when he was done saying it, that's when the gargoyle changed and was like, yep, okay, sounds good.
Right. Like up until that exact point, Frollo thought, he's like, I'm super religiously righteous. Okay, if I die today, I'm going straight up to the top to
Oh, I'm
heaven.
sure he
it's
thought
going
that.
down.
Top floor.
Yes, I'm getting VIP treatment up in heaven.
I'm
Me and
sure he
Jesus
did think
high
that,
fiving,
yes. That's
and
not-
then
It's
the
like in
gargoyle
Wreck-It Ralph
turns.
when they want to get up to the penthouse.
Yes, and then the gargoyle turns into a demon. He's like, "Oh, I made a few mistakes. Bye bye."
I know. I love looking at Frollo's face right then when he looks at it. He's like, he has that like, oh snap face, on.
no.
I'm like, yeah, that's right, Frollo, get in that hellfire.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then the town is magically not on fire anymore and burning. So
Yeah,
Yeah, they emerged.
Fires
the
get
devil
put
was
out.
done with his deed, I guess. He was like, you guys can go on.
we
with
got
your
him,
business.
guys. Clean it up. We're good to
Just gonna
go.
wrap all
That's
this
the only
up.
thing where I
Moving on.
need, like, I get that they wanted the transition in the environment. Like, now it's bright and they've won, and I get it.
They could have
But
just shown like the sun coming
realistically-
out and
Yeah.
everything's still
Yes,
like kind
but,
of
like,
charred.
Realistically, everything would have been so destroyed at that
Oh,
point.
gosh.
Time to rebuild France.
Rebuild
Mhm.
France.
Yeah.
And I like that.
At least Paris.
Phoebus comes
Paris
in
is
and,
on France.
And I love. I think. Oh my gosh, Paris is on France. Whatever, guys. My favorite.
It's so funny.
I have two favorite moments for the end of the movie. Number one, Esmeralda hugs Quasi first before Phoebus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he feels he is the hero. He saved her.
He feels
Like
valued.
that's like the hero moment.
Yep.
And then I love that Quasi like takes both of their hands and like puts them together.
Yeah.
And
That
he,
made
like,
me feel a little
enclosed-
uncomfortable.
Right.
No, I thought it was nice. I think he was just. It proved that he was more accepting like of himself.
I understand it, but
you
it
know.
did
Sure.
make me feel uncomfortable.
Like,
No,
oh, you didn't have to
maybe.
do that, Quasi, like at all.
Quasi.
I think that was just his way of
That's
being
cool.
like, okay,
We'll get a room,
we're cool
Quasi.
guys.
I
I didn't think he meant it like that. I thought he just meant like we're cool guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that
It-
was,
it-
and then it just ends, right? Is that it?
Basically, I think that's.
And
Yeah,
then
it like pans out and the gargoyles are like woo, and then they turn to stone, and then
woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and then we get an R&B credit song. R&B credit song.
Yeah, R&B credit song.
It was.
Someday.
My prince welcome. What?
What?
Da, 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 na, na, na. That song.
Yeah, by All for One.
Who also sings what? You told me.
And I swear
By the moon and the stars in the sky, I'll be there.
We should start an All for One cover band. Let's do it.
You like how all of a sudden you have to sing it nasally though? Yeah.
Everyone
And I
sounds
swear.
disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, so then we get our R&B credit song. And then there's like a tiny post-credit scene.
Yeah, where Hugo, I don't even remember what he says, but he's like,
oh,
hacha, bye. And that's the end of it.
Oh.
If at the very end of the credits, yeah.
Oh.
who was the actor for Hugo again?
Jason Alexander,
Yes.
the dude from Seinfeld.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Luis was not happy.
We didn't
He
even-
wanted everyone to know that was his least favorite character. The comedy was annoying.
We didn't talk
He
about the
appreciate
gargoyle
it.
song, but
I
I didn't
liked
really like the
Hugo.
gargoyle song.
Nope. It reminded me of Aladdin. No, it reminded me of...
Beauty and the Beast and the dishes are singing.
No. It reminded me of, like, Friend Like Me, kind of. Or
Oh.
like, but, like, in
Right,
an
yeah.
annoying way. I
Right.
don't know. It just
Not
wasn't
I
my
just
favorite.
wanted it
Not
didn't,
quite
it
as
didn't
good.
fit into me. But man, that's such a good movie, guys.
It is very good.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's good. That's a classic adult Disney movie.
Would you guys like
Classic
some
adult.
Easter eggs? I have some Easter
Yeah.
eggs. Originally some fun stuff.
Hit
Yeah.
us
You
with
probably
it.
You gave us
saw-
quite a few already too. Yeah.
Did I?
Well, just like
So.
the
Oh, like
horse
just-
and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That was great.
Snowball.
Snowball.
So you guys might have seen this, but while the Hunchback, while Quasi is singing out there, it pans down to the street, and you can see Belle walking away with her book.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool.
In that same scene, you can see a man like wringing out a carpet, which is
Oh, it was
car
carpet.
pots again. Which didn't we see that similar thing?
Yeah,
in,
that's been
What else is carpet in? He was
Tiana.
Yeah.
Yes, Princess.
in Princess and the Frog, and then you also see Pumbaa. He's on like a stake being like taken
no.
away. He's being
no,
See,
Pumbaa.
You know what? This is a compliment to Pumbaa. I bet he tastes great.
eaten. I bet he tastes delicious.
Fantastic.
Y'all
And
are
I'll show you
terrible.
guys the picture all
Pulled
about
Pumbaa.
that. It's funny too because later on in the ending scene when Frollo is trying to get Quasi and Esmeralda and they're hanging from the gargoyle, you see a gargoyle that everyone has said looks like Pumbaa. They're
Oh, it
like,
does
oh,
kinda
that's
look like
totally
Pumbaa.
Pumbaa. But apparently the animators in the audio commentary said that it's not Pumbaa. They actually have a gargoyle
Oh,
on the
that
top of
looks
Notre
like a-
Dame
like a
that's
warthog.
like a warthog. So there you go.
Cool.
Okay.
Like
I sti-
Hogwarts.
Yeah. So I still think that's pretty funny though.
Yeah.
Dope.
There's a couple instances of hidden Mickeys. They say that
Yes, I
they're
said that. Okay.
in the tops of the columns.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
The
in
columns where they join.
where they join.
the
It looks like
ceiling.
little Mickey heads,
yeah.
and
like
we'll
built
post
into the
that.
church.
I said that to Andre when we were watching it.
Let's see.
I mean, we know churches have recurring patterns, so they just threw it in there.
Yes,
Do a couple Mickeys up in there.
we hear the goofy holler
Yes.
in this movie.
It's like it like replaces like a Wilhelm scream
Yes.
almost. Like yeah.
exactly. So the
When a
soldiers are
guard
like falling
falls
off.
down. Yeah.
And it's super funny too because Luis was like, "Oh, look, it was the Hellman's whale."
What?
And I said, the Hellman's whale. And he's
Oh
like,
my
yeah,
God.
you know, the yell. And I'm like, you mean the Wilhelm scream?
The whaleman's hail.
The Hellman's whale.
Oh, the Haleman's whale. That's hilarious.
And now that I'm reading it, because I had to write that down so I wouldn't forget, I think he meant whale as in like screaming like
Right,
a whale
yes.
versus what I wrote, which was a whale. Like the
That's
animal.
the Hillman's whale.
That's the Hellman's whale. It's like,
That's
okay.
hilarious.
So in here,
Anywho.
But it was funny because it was the goofy holler and he, you know, it was the Hellman's whale.
The Haleman's whale.
So funny.
I'm a whale.
Stop.
Ridiculous.
Stop. This is an interesting one. I like this, and we'll probably talk more about this on the crack. But during the Hellfire scene, Judge Frollo's, you know, singing and everything, and apparently the MPAA. Andre, what does that stand for?
That is the oh man, I should know this.
I
but
know. I was
don't.
expecting you
It's
to
like
be able
the-
to just
it's-
acronym us or de-acronym us. The
I gotta
movie
look it
people
up.
who give us the ratings.
The movie people
those
are
peeps.
a rating.
Right? That's
yes,
who
yes,
they are.
that is.
Actors Association.
No, I don't think it's actors.
Well, while Andre's looking that up,
the Motion Picture Association of America. This is the group that rates all the movies.
so apparently when they watched the movie, they were like, animators, you need to get back in the studio and you need to reanimate that scene because apparently like when you see Esmeralda in the fire from the original takes, it wasn't clear enough that she had clothes on.
Oh.
It's not that they didn't animate her with clothes on. It's just that like the fire was so flamey that it was hard to tell that she had like clothing on.
Oh, that would have taken that song to another level.
Oh, I
It's
know.
gonna
So
make
they
it
were
like
like, "Oh no! You want a good rating,
Make
like,
it-
or you want to keep it low? Then you need to go back and fix that."
Yeah.
It's interesting because this movie is rated G, but it's kind of amazing that
It
it's
should
not
definitely be PG.
at least PG.
But
No.
whew, it's up there. They ever make a live action remake of this? That will be intense.
Well, this story, not the
I mean
Disney
a
version,
Disney one.
has been made into
No,
several
yeah, but I mean like a Disney one.
live action films.
Since they're on a live action remake kick.
I hope they don't though, because I don't want them to like.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to
Quasi
see this
wrong.
one. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just. I don't know. I feel like they could take it into offensive ways without trying to
Sure.
be offensive
Mhm.
or not enough.
Right.
Like, you know how we were talking about the Beast?
Yeah, exactly.
Like he was too CGI. He wasn't CGI enough.
Yeah,
He
and where
wasn't scary enough.
And with the animated one sits, it's like very
We're already on rocky ground.
right. Yeah, it's already kind of close, and it's animated. So taking it into live action and bringing in like all of the religious aspects, I can see that movie upsetting some people.
We still need to find the video of you on stage for that show at Disneyland.
That's right. There was a
On the
hunchback.
VHS.
There's a hunchback show at Disneyland, and when I was like 5 years old, I got pulled up on stage, and
Probably during Topsy Turvy, huh?
I think they did
Oh
like
no! Were you like the king of the
no,
fools?
they did like no, they did like some magic tricks or something on me. I think I barely remember it. Like I remember.
I
the
want
VHS
to try
more
to
than-
find like a YouTube video of like that show, like how we did the little Aladdin one. I
Mm-hmm.
want to like try to find a.
I've never seen that, so that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did as a kid. I just don't remember it. But if you're on the train and you go by New Orleans, like over there, they used to have like the two masks out
Yeah.
that were from the Hunchback of Notre Dame show.
Mm.
I'm not sure if they still have them there anymore, but
Very cool.
Okay, what's monies?
Monies.
Schmonies.
This movie did make a fair amount of shmoney. Let's see here. It had a budget of $100 million and had a worldwide box office of $325.3 million. I believe it was the fifth highest grossing movie of 1996, which is pretty good.
Cool.
Mhm. It was nominated for an Oscar that year for Best Music.
Good.
Alan Menken didn't win. I don't know what won that year, but it was something else.
I do like it when Mencken gets those nominations.
Yeah. Oh man, he's ranking up those nominations. I'm sure. I wonder how many he has. That's a question for another time.
We need to just do like a music day. Like let's just talk about all the music that
just all
Alan
music.
Menken did.
Oh man, or just listen to it.
We don't even need to do it for the podcast.
Right, yeah.
We'll just do
Let's
this
do it for
later
us- for
today.
ourselves.
Bye.
On the Rotten Tomato meter, this movie only has a 74%, out of 100, which is still fresh, not certified fresh, but fresh. And the audience score is 70% as well. So I'm
Really?
yeah, I didn't read any reviews, but I'm wondering if people were having
The implications
some
are
issues
rough.
with some of the religious and or racial and or gender implications of this movie.
Or like disability.
Yeah, that too. Mm-hmm.
Not that Quasi's disabled, but
Right, but he's different, I guess.
as we all are.
Yeah, we're all different.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, okay. One of the rotten reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that it's just like one sentence says, "This movie is surely one of Disney's ugliest and least imaginative efforts." It's like, oh wow, well then, and that's from a critic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Ugliest. What does that
Ugliest.
mean? Ugliest like animation?
I guess, but it looked beautiful to me. The animation the entire time was top notch. Did you watch a remastered version?
Probably.
Yeah, we definitely watched the remastered version.
Some of the pan scenes were like gorgeous. The way they animated France
Mhm.
or Paris, excuse me,
Yeah.
and the scales of the church versus the
People
area, and even the fire scenes
Yeah.
were like really
were
cool,
really good looking.
really scary, but really good.
Yeah, and like the remastered version that we had, like they had obviously like for like the crowds, they had like kind of CGI'd the crowds, but those all they all fit in fine because like even when they were like carrying Quasimodo out at the end, like you could see the CGI animated characters and Quasimodo still being like a 2D animated, but it blended pretty well
Oh,
together.
that's good. I
Yeah.
didn't even notice that. So maybe I feel like I probably did watch a remastered version. It didn't even occur to me. So there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
probably.
Then they
was.
did a good job.
yeah. This
I
movie
think they
looked
do.
good.
They remaster just like all of those old animateds now a lot.
Yeah, well, they must have done a better job because some of them I'm like, oh, caramba.
Yeah, some of
Like
them you
the-
can definitely tell.
Like eventually
Hercules.
we'll get to Snow White, and Snow White is like weird because it's so liney, just
Yeah.
because it's of the way it
all
was
hand
animated.
drawn.
Holy moly! And then you see like a super definite line, like, oh my,
Yeah.
like girl, you
Oh,
got
yeah.
like
See,
6
I
noses.
haven't watched that in like ages.
6 noses. Anywho,
Yeah.
I'm just saying she ain't supposed to have 6 noses.
What one nose, Snow, but one. So yeah, was that it? Were we about to do something else? Did we
I don't
have
know,
a-
but Paris is on France.
Paris is on France. I'll have
face-
you know that
I'll have
Paris
you
is
know.
on France.
She's making faces at me right now. She's like, "Stop it!" She's hungry
I'm
too.
hungry.
That doesn't help.
Cranky. Is it time for our ratings?
I think so.
Yes. Let's rate the movie. Michelle?
Good.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
9 out of
It
10.
is a good movie. Do I really want to watch it all the time? No. But like that doesn't take from the fact that it's a really solid movie. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Docking it for some of those songs that don't quite fit in.
A couple of songs. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this movie a 9 as well. It's fantastic. Like it's a really solid movie. Very good. Like it's a good storyline. It's a good plot. There's good dialogue in it. Like I love everything that Esmeralda and Phoebus and Quasimodo are saying to each other, and even Frollo. Frollo is one of the most wildest villains that we've seen in quite some time.
Wild.
He's wild. Okay, he's a wild man, and like watching him die was like very satisfying for me because he was straight up evil the entire movie. And I was like, thank goodness this dude is out of our
Bye.
hair. My goodness gracious.
And Andre's bald,
Yeah,
so you know
exactly.
that's something.
Yeah, when somebody's in my hair, we got a problem. And the music is fantastic as well. So yeah, this movie is it's top notch, as I said.
I'm gonna give this movie a 9 as well. I have the exact same thing to say as Michelle. I will not be watching this movie like all the time, not even close. I will wait until Addie's older
Yeah.
to show it to her. Not because I think that she like couldn't enjoy parts of it, because I'm
Right.
sure she'd think the gargoyles were fantastic. But this is one of those movies where I would want as a parent to have those conversations.
Right.
Like this, yes, these are more adult themes, and I think that if we're gonna watch it, then you need to understand like what works, what doesn't
Right.
work.
What's it about? What's his deal?
Yeah, what's his deal? And on top of it, like how we've kind of said, like some of these 90s movies, well, especially the older ones, like Peter Pan, for example, with like Why is the Red Man Red? Like,
Right, yeah.
Like I want to be able to have those
Some conversations
conversations.
to be
Like,
had.
we're not going to go out and say things like that.
Right,
This is
yes,
why.
exactly.
But this movie is good, like you said, Andre. It's solid. The music is gorgeous. And if we could just take out those other 2 songs, I mean, Topsy Turvy, I suppose we could keep. But the
Topsy-Turvy can stay in.
the
but
one with the
I don't even know what it's called. I can't.
Guy Like You or something like that,
I don't even see it on this list of.
I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
it is A Guy Like You.
something like that. That's rough. Just
Yeah.
like remove it.
Removed.
We'll just cry for the last half hour of the movie. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
we knew what we were getting into when Esmeralda's mom or Quasi's mom died like
Yeah.
2 seconds in. Anywho,
Alas, that's it. We rated it. Good stuff all around.
it was good.
Do we know what we're doing next week?
We do.
I do know, but I don't know at this exact second. You know what I'm saying?
know
Oh
what
wait,
it is.
yes, there it is.
I know
got
what it is. It's
I
because
got
I like this movie.
Next week we are watching the animated Disney film Brother Bear.
Yay.
I still have yet to see it. I need to watch this movie.
I don't want to hype it up too much because every time I hype things up, Andre's like, "Nee." But I will tell you that Luis insisted that I not watch it without him so that he could watch it. And when we rewatched it, this is only the second time we've seen it. We were like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good!"
Right.
But I forgot a lot, so it was really interesting. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I've heard good things. They got bears. They got moose.
They do have moose. My favorite animal. I'm so happy.
The moose are there. So yeah, catch us next week for some Brother Bear goodness. Let us know what you thought of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Send us messages, leave comments, go to all the places. If you're on YouTube, comment down below. like the video, hit subscribe. We are at the Walt Vault Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All of the social medias. Hit us up there. Click subscribe in the podcast app that you're listening to right now, and then you'll know when a new podcast is coming to you next week. If you want to leave us a message, or actually, I believe we had a comment on our Instagram. Yes, Kermit Kid 7. He said he was live action casting the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He said that he would cast Peter Capaldi as Frollo, the doctor from Doctor Who.
Oh my gosh, that would make him so evil.
I know.
Ooh, I think he could do it though.
Robin Lord Taylor as Quasimodo. Chris Hemsworth as Phoebus. I like that one. And
Well, I like Chris Hemsworth.
right, yes. And Renee Elise Goldsberry as Esmeralda.
I think it's a cool list.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. You did a pretty good casting job, dude. Good job. So yeah, comment on our post. We'll read your comment on the show. You can also send us a DM, slide in, like Quasimodo did down the side of the church, and or you can send an email to contact@thewaltvaultpod.com. That helps out too. If you want to help out the Walt Vault, aside from subscribing, you can join us on our Patreon. We are patreon.com/thewaltvault. Sign up for as little as $1 or more and get access to our after show, A Crack in the Vault, where we'll talk about some of the more adult themes in the Disney movies. This week on A Crack, we are going to talk about Frollo a lot. Like we've got things to say about him and his misdeeds. So join us there. That's been it for this week, you guys. We will see you next time. The vault is now closed.